Hi, and welcome to the Men on the Path to Love podcast, the Cracking the Parenting Code episode. I'm Bill Simpson, your host. I coach men who are struggling in relationship, how to communicate effectively, build trust, and deepen intimacy so that they can be the best version of themselves in relationship and live the life they love. So being a parent can be one of the most rewarding and fulfilling experiences of a lifetime. And it can be extremely stressful at times. And it can sure throw a wrench in a relationship if you're not careful or if you're not ready. It can be a real test to a marriage or relationship. And I cringe when I hear couples who are struggling in their relationship talk about having a baby to bring them closer together. And I'm like, if you think your relationship is stressful now, throw a baby in the mix and see what happens. Not necessarily the best idea. Having kids is a huge responsibility, and the transition can be life-changing. And careful family planning is, of course, the best plan of action. Preparing for the transition and adjustment that being a parent can have on a relationship is really important. Frankly, even with the best made plans, it can't entirely prepare you for what it's really like. Yeah, I mean, your roles and responsibilities change. There's sleep deprivation, that piece, fatigue, the extra expenses of having a child. You no longer have the freedom to go out and do the things you used to do before having kids. All that. Research says it's usually in the early years of parenthood where there is a drop in satisfaction in the relationship simply because of the reasons I just mentioned. The good news is that this is usually temporary, and over time, couples tend to regain their satisfaction. I think of the story of Mark and Stacy, not their real names, where they were both genuinely excited to be having their first child. Mark was very career-oriented and didn't really see the impact of having a child would have on him. He figured he would still focus on his career and Stacy could handle the extra responsibilities and stress of having a baby. Once the baby arrived, though, it really sunk in. Stacy became overwhelmed with all the demands of having a baby. Mark unintentionally, the key word here, he unintentionally started to distance himself from his parenting responsibilities, and he focused on his own adjustments and, of course, his career. As time went on, Stacy became more and more exhausted, and she started feeling resentment towards Mark. She withheld sex from Mark, and she was aching for his involvement, some support, feeling a sense of partnership in their parenting. Well, Stacy finally got to the point where she had to say something. She poured out her feelings to Mark, letting him know of her need for him to be more involved and share the responsibility. And at first, Mark was defensive, saying that he was working hard to provide for them and that he was doing the best that he could. Well, Stacy wasn't having it. She pushed back hard, listing all of the responsibilities she was taking on and how little he was doing. Well, Mark finally heard Stacy. She painted a pretty good picture of Mark's unintentional neglect, and he realized the impact of his actions, or inactions as it were, on their relationship and family dynamics. He felt a deep sense of guilt and wanted to make things right. He was determined to change, and he committed himself to being more involved and connected as a father. Mark started by making an effort to bond with their child. He helped with the diaper changes, the late-night feedings, and bath times, and gradually taking on more responsibilities in the day-to-day care of their baby. He actually educated himself about child development. He was reading parenting books. He was engaged in conversations with other fathers to gain insight and support. He also took steps to balance his work commitments with his family time. As Mark became more present and involved, Stacy felt a huge weight lifted from her shoulders. She saw the positive impact it had on their child and their relationship. They began to communicate more openly, sharing their struggles, their wins, and sought out ways to support each other along their parenting journey. And through his initial struggles, Mark learned the importance of being involved as a parent. And with time, Mark found the joy and rewards of fatherhood in ways that he could never imagine. And when I hear this story, I think about how many patients I see at the health clinic where the father is absent from their kids' lives. And it really breaks my heart that they don't allow themselves the opportunity to experience the reward of fatherhood. And often it's because they grew up without a father present, and they're just repeating the sad cycle. All right, let's get back to cracking the parenting code. So I mentioned that the early stages of parenting can be challenging on the relationship at first. Then hopefully the couple adapts and gets back into the groove of their relationship. And part of that adapting is the pragmatics of household chores and childcare responsibilities. Research tells us that making sure the household chores and childcare responsibilities are divided up fairly is crucial for relationship satisfaction. I go back to Mark and Stacy, with Mark being focused on work and career and not taking much, if any, childcare responsibilities. It put way too much burden on Stacy to where the relationship suffered. Open communication, negotiation, and shared decision-making regarding responsibilities can help mitigate these challenges. Effective communication is so important in relationship, period, and especially after becoming parents. It's crucial. Studies show that couples who engage in positive communication patterns, such as expressing appreciation and empathy, tend to have better relationship satisfaction, including intimacy and sexual satisfaction. And to be honest, it can go the other way too, where unresolved conflicts or ineffective communication can lead to dissatisfaction in the relationship or the relationship ending. So effective communication is the key here. Another positive aspect of parenthood in relationship is the emotional connection that can often deepen between couples. The research here says that couples who experience parenthood collaboratively can enhance feelings of intimacy, commitment, and a shared purpose in relationship. It's like teamwork makes the dream work. I really want to emphasize here the importance of the commitment to and priority of the relationship for the long term. As kids get older, it's so important to maintain strong boundaries as the couple, as a unit, and the kids as a separate unit. What I mean here is that couples should be a united front. The research is pretty clear on this. When a couple operates as a united front, it can establish a sense of consistency, stability and structure, which can promote emotional security and well-being for the child. It can reduce confusion. It adds respect for authority and, the decisions made by the parents. It can help with conflict resolution, modeling skills that the kids can use. It helps to create a more harmonious family environment. And when couples operate as a united front, it can avoid triangulation, which is a big one I see when parents are struggling in their relationship. Triangulation is when communication between two people becomes strained in some kind of way, and they involve a third party to mediate or validate their opinions or feelings. I'll use Trey and Nyla, for example, not their real names. They unintentionally got into a triangulation situation with their 11-year-old daughter, Lily, not her real name, of course. Trey and Nyla would often disagree about certain parenting decisions and would inadvertently involve Lily in their conflicts. Nyla thought that Lily needed to have more strict guidelines for her phone usage, whereas Trey thought that Lily was old enough to have more flexibility. Well, as Trey and Nyla's disagreement escalated, individually they approached Lily about the situation with their opposing views. And again, unintentionally, they ended up putting Lily in the middle. Lily became torn and confused, feeling some anxiety around it, with the stress of being in the middle. And she started playing mom and dad against each other. And it finally got to the point where the tension within the family had built up so high that they had to do something. So Trey and Nala sought out a family counselor in hopes of a solution. It was quickly pointed out to them that the triangulation they created was having a harmful impact on Lily. They realized that they needed to present a united front and prioritize their daughter's well-being over their individual disagreements. And with some negotiation and compromise, Trey and Nala came to an agreement and then had an honest and open conversation with Lily, acknowledging how involving her in their disagreement was inappropriate and that they were committed to growing as a family. Through their commitment and continued efforts, Trey, Nala, and Lily not only overcame triangulation, but also built a stronger bond as a family. They grew to appreciate each other's perspectives and strengths, and ultimately creating a loving and supportive environment in which Lily could flourish. And from what I understand, Trey and Nala have another little one on the way. It's important to note here that every couple's experience with parenthood is unique, right? Yeah, so many factors can influence the impact of parenting on relationships. Seeking help through couples therapy, coaching, parenting classes, and support groups can provide valuable tools and strategies for maintaining a healthy and fulfilling relationship while navigating the joys and challenges of being parents. I'd like to close out this episode with a quote from family therapist Jane Blaustone. She says, "The best security blanket a child can have is parents who respect each other." That's right. And that will do it for this episode of the Men on the Path to Love podcast, the Cracking the Parent Code episode. I'm Bill Simpson, your host. Thank you for listening. So mental health can play a big part in relationship, right? What I see the most in my practice is the impact of anxiety and depression on relationships. It can be devastating, and it can also be a stepping stone to healing. Please join me next time for the Navigating Anxiety and Depression in Relationship episode. And remember, if you have any questions or issues about your relationship you need help with, comments about the podcast, reach out to me. I'm here for you. Email me at bill@pathways2livingwell.com. That's bill@pathways2livingwell.com. And as always, if you know someone who you think might benefit from listening to this podcast, please share the link and share the love. And until next time, keep your heart open and stay on the path to love.